They say the poorest man in the world is the one without a dream. But I say, even poorer is the man who has a dream and still thinks small. Let me ask you something. What are you thinking about when no one's watching? Because that's where wealth is born, in the unseen, unspoken, undistracted moments of mental labor. You don't need $1 million in the bank to think like a millionaire. You just need a shift in philosophy. That's where it starts. Not in your wallet, but in your mind. The tragedy is, most people wait for circumstances to improve before they improve their mindset. But let me tell you, that's not how the wealthy play the game. The wealthy think differently first, and then the money follows. The broke wait for evidence, the rich create it. Now, I know the temptation. When you're broke, your thoughts are under attack. Doubt creeps in like fog. Fear whispers. You question your worth. But listen, if you let your environment shape your thinking, you'll stay there. But if you learn to think above your circumstances, you rise. It's the mind that builds the future, not the paycheck. Not yet, anyway. So the challenge today isn't to earn like a millionaire that comes later. The challenge is to think like one, to carry yourself with discipline, to govern your thoughts with vision, to act with purpose. See, if the mind is rich, the future is obligated to catch up. It has no choice. Don't underestimate the power of one new thought, one new habit, one new standard. Because wealth doesn't start with cash, it starts with character. And that's what we're going to explore. How to build millionaire thinking, even if your pockets are empty right now. The tragedy is staying broke, especially in your thinking. You see, your bank account is not your identity. It's a snapshot of a moment, not the definition of your potential. You could have $7 in your wallet and still carry the mindset of a millionaire. You could be in debt and still train your mind to think abundance, value, and vision. Because your current financial situation is just a reflection of your past decisions, and those were shaped by your past thinking. But if you change the thinking, the future begins to change. I remember working on a farm, making a few dollars a week, just enough to get by. And if someone had judged me by the number in my pocket, they'd have missed the gold growing in my mind. I was broke, yes, but I wasn't poor. Broke is temporary, poor is a mindset. I chose to start investing not in stocks or real estate yet, but in ideas. That's how the shift began. First the thinking change, then the habits, then the results. The secret is to stop identifying yourself by where you are. That's dangerous. It limits your behavior. Instead, identify yourself by who you're becoming. You've got to talk to yourself the way millionaires do, not with arrogance, but with ownership. Say, I may not have it in my hands yet, but I have it in my head. And what's in my head can shape my hands, my habits, and my harvest. Don't wait for the money to start thinking like you deserve it. Start thinking like you've already earned the right by becoming a person of value. Study wealth, read philosophy, practice discipline, carry yourself with quiet ambition. You don't need riches to think rich. You need reasons. Reasons to grow, reasons to serve, reasons to stay up late and get up early. And if you build those reasons strong enough, the resources will come. Never forget, money is attracted to mindset, not misery. I used to think the goal was to look successful. Nice shoes, shiny car, latest gadgets. But one day, I looked around and realized something strange. Some of the wealthiest people I knew didn't flash it. They didn't spend money to show off, they spent money to grow. That's when I discovered the powerful difference. Poor thinking spends, wealthy thinking builds. Broke thinking is addicted to the thrill of instant gratification. Wealthy thinking understands the power of delayed reward. One mindset buys to impress, the other builds to progress. You walk into a room, and the person wearing the flashiest watch may not be the wealthiest. Often, it's the quiet man in the corner who owns the building. Why? Because broke thinking spends money on what disappears in liabilities. A new car, a status outfit, a night out to feel important. Wealthy thinking, on the other hand, is patient. It plants. It invests in books instead of branded shoes, in coaching instead of cocktails. It builds something that keeps working when you stop. Early on, I had to make that shift. When the money came, the first impulse was to reward myself. But I realized if I keep doing what average minds do, I'll keep getting what average lives get. So I decided to build. I bought ideas. I bought time. I bought access to people who were further ahead than me. I didn't need to look rich. I needed to become valuable. You don't build wealth by consuming. You build it by creating, investing, and multiplying. You have to train yourself to look past the fruit and see the seed. Anyone can eat fruit, but the wise invest in orchards. The poor mind wants something today. The wealthy mind prepares for a lifetime. Don't ask, what can I buy right now? Ask, what can I build that pays me later? That shift will make all the difference. It did for me. So before you reach for your wallet, stop and ask, am I spending to impress someone else or investing to improve myself? One path is shallow and short-lived. The other, deep, lasting, and wealthy. Choose the second. Every time. I remember when I first started paying attention to my surroundings, not just the physical space, but the people, the conversations, the energy. And I realized something that changed everything. Environment shapes income. You can't think like a millionaire while spending your time with people who see life through the lens of lack. You can't build abundance surrounded by those who glorify limitation. If your circle is committed to comfort, gossip, and excuses, don't be surprised when your life quietly reflects the same. In my early days, I was surrounded by good people, but not growth-minded people. They meant well, but every time I mentioned a big idea, I was met with silence, skepticism, or sarcasm. And eventually I stopped sharing. Not because the dream was wrong, but because I was planting in the wrong soil. Then it hit me. It wasn't just about dreaming big, it was about being around people who didn't shrink when you did. So I changed my environment. I started going to different rooms, different meetings, different events. I sought out builders, those who were stretching, sacrificing, improving, and something miraculous happened. My language changed. My standards changed, and very soon my income changed. Because you rise or fall to the level of the people you surround yourself with. It's not magic, it's momentum. Millionaire thinking is nurtured in environments of possibility. It's in the rooms where people talk about ideas, not people. Where plans are made, not excuses. Where effort is praised more than luck. If everyone around you is trying to survive, you'll find it hard to thrive. But if you get in a circle where people are constantly reaching for better, you'll be pulled upward without even noticing at first. Now, I'm not saying abandon people, but I am saying evaluate the energy. Some folks are batteries, others are black holes. One group will build you, the other will drain you. If you want to change your income, don't just look at your job, look at your conversations. Are they stretching you or shrinking you? Are they fueling dreams or feeding doubts? The fastest way to think like a millionaire is to start hearing what millionaires hear. That means choosing builders over drainers every single time. I remember someone once asked me, how do I become rich? And I said, stop working only for money and start making money work for you. Now that answer puzzled him at first, because we're trained from an early age to trade time for dollars. But let me tell you something, if you want to think like a millionaire, even when you're broke, you have to break free from that trap. Millionaires don't chase paychecks. They create systems. They build assets. They plant seeds that grow while they sleep. See, the moment you shift from laboring for money to directing it like a servant, everything changes. When I started out, I didn't have much, but I had the right ideas. I'd take $5 and study how to multiply it. I'd buy a book instead of a burger. I'd skip one night out to put that money toward a small investment, because the habit matters more than the amount. Don't say, when I have more, I'll do better. Say, I'll do better with what I have, and then I'll have more. That's how it starts. Now, I've known folks who earned $10,000 a month and stayed broke, and I've seen others with $2,000 a month build wealth simply because they respected money, they studied it, they tracked it, they put it to work. They didn't just spend it, they steered it. A millionaire mindset understands that every dollar is a soldier. You can send it off to die in the battlefield of impulsior. You can assign it to a mission, growth. And the truth is, you don't need to be rich to start thinking like the rich. You just need to stop seeing money as something to burn and start treating it as a tool. Even if it's $5 a week, start building the habit of investment. Learn how money grows, learn how compound interest works, Study where the wealthy put their cash. Because if you'll build discipline with little, you'll build power with more. So don't just work for money. That's what average minds do. Command your money, give it direction, make it work harder than you do. That's when wealth begins to find you. When I was struggling and broke, I learned something that changed my life. Complaining doesn't build bridges, it digs ditches. Every time I opened my mouth to explain why things weren't working, I was using that same breath I could have used to change something. That's when I realized the broke complain, but the wealthy construct. The broke look around and find reasons why they're stuck. The wealthy look within and build ladders out of limitations. You see, excuses are easy. They roll off the tongue like poetry. The government, the economy, my upbringing, bad luck, no support. But here's what I figured out excuses are just stories we tell ourselves to avoid responsibility. And responsibility is the doorway to power. The moment I stopped excusing and started executing, things began to shift. Not because it got easier, but because I got sharper. I once mentored a young man who always had potential, but every time we met, he came with a fresh reason why he hadn't made progress. Too busy, too tired, not enough money, no connections. One day I told him, you have two choices. Either you become an expert in problems or a master of solutions. Wealthy minds pick the second. They don't sit around talking about how tough it is. They get up and ask, what can I do with what I've got? The wealthy don't need sympathy, they look for leverage. They train themselves to see opportunity inside of chaos. While others argue about what's fair, the millionaire thinker finds what works. They understand that money flows to those who solve problems, not to those who advertise them. The more valuable the solution, the more powerful the return. When I stopped waiting for someone to understand me and started understanding myself, I moved. When I stopped needing applause and started building in silence, I climbed. And when I stopped talking about why I couldn't and started finding out how I could, I began to construct a new life from the ground up. So stop rehearsing your limits. Start designing your leverage. Your wealth won't come from complaints, it will come from construction. Build what you wish existed and let the results speak the language you don't have to. When I was broke, I paid close attention to one thing above all my language. Not just how I spoke to others, but how I spoke to myself. And let me tell you, your language predicts your lifestyle. What you say daily becomes the architecture of your beliefs, and those beliefs eventually show up in your bank account. If you constantly say, I can't afford it, you're shutting down the creative faculties of your mind. You're telling your brain not to try. You're training yourself to retreat. But when you ask, how can I afford it? Even if you don't have $1 in your wallet, you're forcing your mind to explore, to create, to solve. You open the gate to possibilities. And that's the difference between a broke mindset and a millionaire mindset. One closes the book before the story begins. The other writes a new chapter, even in the dark. I remember a time I wanted to attend a seminar that cost more than what I had in my entire account. The old thinking would have said, that's too expensive. But I asked instead, how can I make this happen? I sold a few old items I didn't need. I skipped a few luxuries, and I went. That one event ended up changing how I viewed income, value, and wealth forever. But if I had let my language stop me, I never would have stepped through that door. Words are seeds. You can plant weeds of doubt or trees of destiny. When you say, I'm not good at this, you plant incompetence. When you say, I'll figure it out, you plant capability. I've watched people talk themselves out of opportunity more often than they were ever denied it. Start speaking possibility into your day. Say, I will find a way. Say, I am learning to manage money. Say, I create value. Millionaires don't use vocabulary that excuses weakness. They use language that reinforces growth. They speak vision even when the reality hasn't caught up yet. So from this moment on, treat your words like investments. Don't spend them cheaply. Let them buy you belief. Let them build you discipline. And let them bring you the wealth your silence has been planning for all along. When I finally understood that discipline was the currency of wealth, everything began to shift. You see, money doesn't just obey strategy, it obeys character. And discipline is character in motion. It's waking up early not because someone told you to, but because you told yourself you would. It's studying late, budgeting wisely, resisting the impulse, choosing long-term over short-term. That's what builds wealth not just in the bank, but in who you become. People often ask, what's the secret? And I tell them, it's not really a secret, it's a series of simple disciplines repeated daily. Millionaire thinkers don't wait for motivation. They wake up and go to work, whether they feel like it or not. When I was broke, I made a vow to myself. No more excuses. No more waiting for inspiration. I created a schedule, and I stuck to it. I gave every dollar an assignment. I gave every hour a mission. And little by little, those simple, silent disciplines turned into a foundation that wealth could sit on. Discipline isn't painful, it's profitable. Every morning you rise early to study while others sleep. You're buying back your future. Every time you skip the unnecessary purchase and invest instead, you're paying for freedom. Most people don't lack opportunity, they lack discipline. They want results, but they're not willing to pay in consistency. And let me tell you, inconsistency is a tax you can't afford. Millionaire minds understand the principle. Live a few years like most won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most can't. I lived modestly while others flaunted. I read books while others watched television. I wrote down goals while others just hoped things would work out. And today I get to enjoy choices that others only dream of, not because I'm special, but because I was consistent. If you want to shift from broke to wealthy, start by treating discipline as a form of wealth. Because if you master yourself, you'll master your money. And once you do that, the world will no longer tell you what you can afford, you'll decide for yourself. If you want to step out of the crowd and into a different league, it starts with what you do when no one is watching. Millionaire minds understand that success isn't built on distractions, but on disciplined study and reflection. While others scroll endlessly through social media, millionaires turn to books, courses, and journals. They absorb knowledge silently and steadily, recognizing that the time invested in learning compounds into opportunity later. In my own life, there were moments when I had little to show, but a mind hungry to grow. I chose to spend hours reading and reflecting rather than chasing quick thrills or momentary approval. This wasn't about showing off. It was about building a foundation so strong that when the time came, the results would speak for themselves. The world rewards preparation more than appearance. The smartest person in the room isn't necessarily the loudest. They're the one who's read the most, thought the deepest, and planned the longest. Journaling is a powerful tool in this process. Writing down thoughts, goals, and lessons helps lock in wisdom and reveals patterns you might otherwise miss. Reflection turns experience into insight and insight into action. Millionaire minds don't just learn, they apply what they learn, quietly adjusting course and moving steadily toward their vision. When you study more than you show, you avoid the trap of seeking validation through superficial means. Instead, you build real, lasting value. This is the mindset that allows you to grow in silence, then emerge with strength. You're not competing to be the loudest voice, you're preparing to be the most effective one. If you want to be in that top few percent, commit to learning every day. The time you invest now away from the spotlight will pay dividends far beyond any temporary applause. Remember, knowledge without action is just potential, but knowledge with disciplined action is unstoppable power. Vision is the unseen blueprint that guides every millionaire's journey, and goals are the bricks that build that vision into reality. It's easy to get caught up in what you don't have right now, money, resources, connections, but the millionaire mindset knows that none of those things are prerequisites for starting. What matters most is clarity about where you're headed and the daily discipline to lay one brick at a time. I've met many people who were broke but rich in vision. They didn't wait for perfect circumstances. They didn't wait to feel ready. Instead, they woke each day with a clear picture of the life they wanted to create. That vision gave them purpose and fueled their persistence. Their goals weren't vague wishes, but specific, actionable steps that could be done consistently, no matter how small. Think of it like building a house. You don't start by buying the furniture or painting the walls. You begin with a solid foundation, and brick by brick you build up. Each goal, each task you complete is a brick laid in your future's foundation. When you focus on these daily bricks, your vision grows stronger, more tangible, and unstoppable. The millionaire mindset understands that wealth is not an accident. It's the outcome of deliberate, focused action aligned with a compelling vision. It's the difference between drifting aimlessly and steering with purpose. When you hold your vision close, even in the toughest times, it keeps you anchored and motivated. You begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. Your vision may not pay the bills today, but it will pay dividends tomorrow. So don't let lack of money silence your dreams. Instead, let your vision fuel your goals. Set them clearly, pursue them relentlessly, and watch as the bricks you lay today build the wealth you desire tomorrow. A clear vision with consistent goals is the pathway from broke to billionaire. Keep stacking those bricks. You see, thinking like a millionaire isn't about making grand announcements or telling the world what you plan to do. It's about quiet, determined action that builds momentum beneath the surface. When you constantly talk about your plans, you risk wasting energy on the noise of approval or criticism rather than on the work itself. Millionaire minds understand that silence isn't emptiness. It's power in disguise. I've observed that the most successful people I've met rarely boast about their intentions. Instead, they channel their energy into daily habits, consistent effort, and deliberate progress. These small, unseen actions whisper wealth into existence long before anyone else notices the change. They let results, not words, do the talking. You have to silence your ego. The desire to impress or seek validation can become a thief, stealing your focus and momentum. When you quiet that urge, you redirect your energy into what truly matters: building skills, making wise investments, and growing your mindset. It's this persistent, humble effort that separates those who dream from those who achieve. The truth is, success is a process that rewards patience and persistence. It's not about quick wins or flashy displays. It's about showing up day after day, putting in the work when no one is watching, and trusting that the compounding effect will bring your efforts to light. Wealth doesn't shout, it accumulates quietly and steadily. So, if you want to think like a millionaire, start by acting like one. Speak less about what you intend to do and more about what you have done. Let your habits, discipline, and results be the loudest voice in the room. In time, your silence will confuse those who doubted you and inspire those who witness your transformation. Remember, wealth is born in silence and nurtured through action. Speak less, do more, and watch everything fall into place. As we bring this message to a close, remember this: thinking like a millionaire, even when you're broke, isn't some faraway dream reserved for a lucky few. It's a mindset, a deliberate way of seeing the world, yourself, and your potential. Your current financial situation does not define you. It simply marks the starting line. What truly shapes your future is the mindset you choose to cultivate today. The habits you build, the company you keep, the words you speak to yourself, these are the real currency that will buy your future freedom. Too many get caught up in the illusion that wealth begins with money, when it actually begins with a clear vision and the discipline to pursue it. Millionaires understand this truth deeply. Wealth grows quietly in the background, nurtured by patience, effort, and unwavering belief. They don't waste energy chasing approval or broadcasting their dreams prematurely. Instead, they focus on building their skills, their character, their financial foundation brick by brick, day by day. It's this relentless, silent work that moves mountains. Now, you might wonder, how do I start thinking this way when my bank account is empty? The answer lies in what you feed your mind, the company you choose, and the actions you take, no matter how small. Begin by surrounding yourself with people who lift you, challenge you, and inspire you to grow. Let go of draining conversations that feed scarcity and self-doubt. Invest in learning, read books, attend seminars, absorb wisdom. Your education is your greatest asset. Discipline yourself to take daily steps that align with your vision, even when it feels uncomfortable or slow. Understand that setbacks and failures aren't signs to quit, but are part of the process. Millionaire thinking embraces challenges as opportunities to adapt, learn, and rise stronger. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be persistent. When you shift your language from "I can't afford it" to "How can I afford it?" you open doors to creativity and solutions. When you silence the noise of doubt and act with confidence, your mindset becomes your greatest ally. So here's my call to action for you. Right now, commit to thinking like a millionaire regardless of your current situation. Write down your vision. Set daily goals that move you closer to it. Choose your circle wisely. Begin investing in yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. Speak less about your plans and more through your actions. Let your life be the loudest testimony of your transformation. You hold the power to change your story. Wealth is not just a number in a bank account, it's a mindset that you can cultivate starting today. Think wealth, act now, speak less, and watch how everything begins to fall into place. Your future $1 million life begins with the choices you make in this very moment. Make them count.